Okay, we're
Right.
live.
Yep.
And the tradition is I always apologize for not having an intro. That is my intro, is me apologizing for not having it. I need one. And I go on a show and they'll have like a great intro and like, I need to do that. I could do it. But whatever.
I
We're
think
just
that's your intro. That's just as good as anybody else's, man. That's
yeah,
awesome.
this is my
It's your own
brand.
thing.
We're on brand. I'm like the lazy guy or whatever. So the postmodern streamer, which is not necessarily a good thing. Yeah, so I'm going to share screen. I just want to mention real fast, this is a promo stream, but we won't be talking about the books the whole time. But Tomb of Reckoning 3, 2 is fulfilled, which is awesome. That's cool, Dio, getting that under your belt. I think that's like, and now, I mean, it's been 2 now that are totally fulfilled. Then number 2 did way better than number 1, like exponentially better.
Yes, for sure.
And it's going so fast. Like I mentioned to you, I got my books. I haven't read them yet. I'll read them very soon.
Take your time.
But
I know you're busy.
yeah, so it's like, but it's so that even there, I'm sure I'm not the only one. It's like you're so efficient. Like people will be like reading it and then backing it or whatever. So, so yeah, it's good though. And then Inner Planet number 1 on Fund My Comic with Jason. We'll take a look at this too. This looks awesome. And yeah, the art looks amazing.
That looks great.
Yeah. And yeah, Jason, I haven't had you on the channel before. Do you want to give us a quick intro to yourself?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Jason. I'll be the quiet one today. Interplanet is my first attempt at something like this. I've been a writer for a long time. I've published some short stories, but when I saw what was going on in the indie comic industry, people publishing their own comic books, I thought I'd give that a try. And the result is there. I hired some excellent artists. Alan Otero did the pencils and inks, and Leonardo Pacciaroti DiMaggio did the colors. And so you can see it's a beautiful looking book. And I hope some people will give it a try because I think people will enjoy it. I tried traditional storytelling, not superheroes, but otherwise I think it's in the spirit of comic book storytelling.
Cool. Yeah, this looks great. So we'll take a look at these in a second. But the first thing I wanted to do is psychoanalyze everyone based on their background. So,
Nice.
so yeah, Dio, you can go first. So Dio, a family man, multitasking. He's got multiple things going on. He's got some squalor in the background. He's got
sure.
some.
We have
So
a
he's got
newborn.
some.
We have a newborn that's just a month old, man. So the house has been it's been crazy, dude. Nobody's really getting much sleep. If anybody knows about newborns, so yeah, it's been nuts over here, dude, for sure.
Nice. And congratulations, then that's cool.
Thanks, man.
That's
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the baby. People have them all day, all the time. It's not that big of a deal, but
I only know
work.
yeah, I only know from observation because I'm a uncle, but my nephew is like 2 now or 2.5, and niece is like 1 from my brother. But and I noticed my brother, I'm like he's a teacher and then he's like a father of these 2 toddlers. And I'm like, dude, you're in like a 3 to 4 year blackout right now, and you're gonna come out of it at some point, and then be like, what happened?
For
I mean,
sure.
I guess I just spent 3 years keeping these 2 people alive.
Yeah, see, that's the thing too, man. Like the first, even with the second one, well, a little less with the second one, but with the first one, you hear about SIDS, so you're like checking that thing like all the time to make sure it's not a potato just resting on its nose and mouth and passing out for good. So yeah, the first couple of months are always a little bit of a bitch, but yeah, it is what it is, man. I mean, yeah, I mean, you see your brother running around, probably ragged, dude. So we're in that same boat right now, but we'll get back to normal. And this is essentially my nerd nook, is just a mess of kid stuff. So, speaking of not having a traditional stream look, I've been told to have a nerd nook, but this is my nerd nook. This is my drawing space right there, my paper and stuff right there, and then kids crap everywhere else. So that's my studio, so to speak.
Have you had yet like the kid come in and drink your ink and have to go to the hospital or spill it on your book or anything?
Luckily, no. She's pretty good. And to be honest with you, dude, like the wifey's an artist, better than I am, an actual artist. The kid does like really good artwork. Like she'll color in lines. She just turned 3 in December, and she's like, she doesn't color outside the line. She draws stuff actually pretty well. So if anything, I'm going to try to see if we can get her on Photoshop and get a sweatshop going in this house.
Oh, dude, That's
Yeah.
what I was gonna say. That's the next
Yeah.
thing. Then they get old enough, then you can get a little child labor going, get them in the
100%.
family business.
Yeah, and who's going to sue me? You know what I mean? Yeah, good luck, kid. So,
Yeah. I've seen a lot of that. It'll like, I mean, it'll like benefit the kid in a lot of ways. They learn some business or whatever. You know, like Mike S. Miller, his son was like selling art in early CG days, and I feel like he was selling art for like $100 or something.
dang.
And I remember thinking like, man, if I was like 10 years old with $100 in my pocket, I wouldn't even know what to do with myself. I'd be
No,
like,
not at all. Yeah.
oh,
Seriously, that's
dude, this
awesome.
is like 30 GI Joes. That's like every GI Joe I've ever owned can be bought in with one bill.
Dude,
I
for
wouldn't even
real.
understand. Yeah. Nice. And then so Jason, you look like you're in a theater and you're running a theater company and or you're running like a series of dolls that murder people and you're the doll maker.
Well, I live in a tiny row home in Philadelphia. And so
Cool.
a few years ago, we fixed up the basement. It wouldn't be totally accurate to say it's a finished basement now, but it's inhabitable. And so, I mean, I sat down here many days teaching because I'm a teacher. And when we started teaching from home, I tried to make the environment look a little more professional, educational, appropriate for school teaching. But yeah, I mean, you see, Godzilla is in the background.
I was just gonna say, I see
Black.
Godzilla. I see a smoking Indian, like a red man cigarette or whatever
Yeah.
guy.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love Old West stuff. So some cowboys and Indian stuff, tiki stuff. One of my favorite things.
I think I see Grover too.
Yeah, right up top, wearing the armor, right?
No,
Yeah.
that's I think that might be Godzilla wearing a fedora,
Oh, right next to him is like the puppet.
and that
Yeah.
I think is a jack-o'-lantern.
And then right on the other side.
Next to your head.
Let's see, what is that? Oh, that's the Philly Fanatic.
Oh, that's the Philly Fanatic. That's awesome. So what is the Philly Fanatic? Is that like a legend or something? A serial killer?
He is the mascot for the Phillies,
For
the
okay,
baseball
cool.
team.
Oh yeah, nice. All right.
He's been surpassed a little bit by Gritty,
Yeah,
the,
Gritty. The
the
Flyers.
mascot for the Flyers. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, Philadelphia will always love the Fanatic.
Yeah, nice. By the way, Crowfire Studios says I would have blown $100 on Garbage Pail Kids and Watermelon Nerds.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
kind of hilarious. That sort of it always dates you a little bit, you know, like even for
100%.
me, GI Joe's is like late '80s or early '90s kind of thing. That's like my childhood. But I don't know. That's a question. So if you guys had $100 when you're 8 years old, what would you spend it on?
Oh man.
Well, I mean,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Jay. No,
It's,
you go ahead.
it's a little bit of not quite an answer to your question, but I'm reminded of being a teenager, and one of my friends got a job sweeping up a bakery for $40 a week, and it seemed like just an impossibly large amount of money at that time because I think I was getting like $5 from my parents a week at the time, and I just could not imagine how many comic books you could buy with $40 a week. It seemed unbelievable. And then, I went and got a job pushing shopping carts. And of course, the money was not it. The money went much faster than I thought. I wasn't as rich as I thought I'd be getting a part-time job.
Yeah. Things come up. What about you, Dio?
Yeah, it would have been GI Joes and He-Man. And probably some horror stuff. I was 8 years old. Was pretty deep into He-Man, GI Joes, and horror movies. So it would have been something like that. But yeah, I'd have been stoked, man. I'd have been super excited for that.
Yeah.
Time.
Cool.
And we've gone a long way back then too. So
Yeah. Oh, and Jolly Green says Crowfire is Arvid. I wondered if it was Arvid, but I didn't want to say anything. So yeah, Arvid, what's up? Arvid's a good almost like he could be in this stream with us. That would make it a
heck yeah, dude. Arvid's the man, dude.
Yeah.
Love that guy. And
Me
Jolly.
too. And-
Jolly's great too. That goes to show when we were talking before about the community, man. There is a hell of a lot of cool people in the indie community though that I feel are a cool clique that gives it a good vibe. You know what I mean? Jason included, yourself obviously, Narwhal, me not so much, but Arvid and Jolly and a shit ton others that make this community and this space on Twitter especially just really fun and cool. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I've wondered I wonder, way back in the day, your boy Zach, he left Twitter
Mhm.
and he was telling everyone, he's like, leave Twitter, like figure out another way to do it. It's not the right way. And
Mhm.
I didn't agree with him and I didn't know what else to do. I'm like, literally, I feel like you have to be on Twitter because just even to get the links to the live streams for the promotion or whatever. And actually, specifically, I know Twitter will a lot there like I will get a fair amount of comic sales through it. The craziest was for Cerberus. And this is like a little bit what we might talk about some of this like fundraising, just marketing and stuff. One
Mhm.
thing I've said is like anytime it kind of clicks into a little bit of like a quote unquote narrative is that will help you, but you don't necessarily want to manipulate that because it can be ethically a little weird.
Mhm.
But like I'll give you an example of one sort of narrative that popped up with Cerberus was actually set the goal at 30,000 because the that I had hired Monica to draw it and Eric to letter it, and I had hired a colorist. So the whole budget for the whole book was like 15, 20,000. And so I'm like, all right, and fulfillment's going to be like half of what we raise. So I'm like,
Mhm.
all right, breaking even at 30,000, let's go. And I
Mhm.
said it, and then it got to be like day 29, and we were at 24,000. And I had it set to keep all the money, but I noticed that if you don't reach the goal, it won't let you go in demand on Indiegogo. It
Oh
just
wow.
ends. So I was like, damn, I really want to hit the goal and it go in demand. Like I definitely want that to
Mhm.
happen. So I tweeted and I just mentioned, I was like, hey, this is a long shot, but I'm trying to raise 6 grand in one day. You know, it's the last day. We got to reach this goal so I can go in demand. Otherwise, it's all going to end. And it got retweeted like 50 times and it raised 6 grand. And that was without going on a live stream. It
That's
raised
awesome.
six. Yeah, so that was just Twitter. I was like, man, that's crazy. And that's like very inspiring and fun and cool that that happened. And it's different eras. Like that was in the era where I feel like the economy was a little better, you know, and maybe it's not quite there now, but
Yeah, for
that could
sure.
always come back. So,
100%.
yeah, but Twitter's like great. But yeah, your boy Zach, he's like, leave Twitter. And then the thing is, I wake up in the morning and I am in a bad habit of like checking Twitter on my phone.
Mhm.
And I know you could break it, but it's a little bit of that like addiction almost, you know, it's like
For sure.
it's like hard to break that habit kind of. And I'm like, I should just freaking leave Twitter. Ah, so there's like multiple
Mhm.
reasons. I'm like, if I could, I almost would.
You know,
But
to
yeah.
your point though, like I had a Twitter in 2010. I never used it. And then I just really started using it fairly recently, within the past couple of years. But I will say, and not, to be an Elon guy or any of that stuff, but the way Twitter is now, it's one of the few places where you get information and news, not connected to the comic stuff, that I think is pretty important to see non-biased news really hit the front, right away live before you get it on any other space. So I think for that reason alone, I'm going to stay on Twitter. Maybe not, maybe there'll be a time when I don't comment as much. But I think just on that aspect, not, I know it totally is, it's, not in regards to the comic stuff, but I'm just saying, I think it's sort of nice and refreshing to see a news source, so to speak, that's pretty unfiltered and not what it was a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? Where you couldn't say anything without getting kicked off. So
Yeah, yeah, I agree. The news is pretty interesting how
mhm.
Twitter does manage to like help with that worldview, just getting the full picture a little bit better. Things will
Mhm.
like trickle through. I was at like a hippie bonfire once, and
Mhm.
it was funny because it was a mix of like woke like people who I can't relate to that much, you know, and
Mhm.
they're very like this is like the censorious types or whatever
Mhm.
kind of thing. Although in person, they're even those people are cool usually, and it's true. Like hanging out with them at a fire, it's fine. But you're worried that other things will come up. But there's this one old hippie lady, and she's like, everyone needs to get on Twitter. That's the only way to understand what's really happening in the world. And she was naming all
Wow.
this like borderline conspiracy stuff. But I'm like, dude, I believe all that, everything you're saying.
Lizard
And
people.
yeah, yeah. And then you could tell the woke people were like getting really uncomfortable. And but I was like, I'm glad to have like a representative like her in my corner, you
Right?
know. That
Yeah, for
happened.
sure.
There was one random one. So we're gonna. By the way, we got 9 people watching. Thanks everyone for being here, and we're gonna actually look at these campaigns in a second. I want to make sure people know what we're here for, which is to check out these campaigns. But I got one quick anecdote for you guys that was kind of funny too, because it was right like early in before the lockdowns, but early with the COVID stuff. and then just masking was maybe kind of being a thing, and I wasn't even into that, which is I was definitely in the minority, whatever. But I was with my mom, and she's like, she was kind of masking, and we went into a 7-Eleven for some reason in Portland, and there was like these two people in front of us in line, and they were buying like a ton of chips and Cheetos and stuff and pop, and they were both morbidly obese. I think they're both women, and they were talking back and forth, and they're like, yeah, I don't understand why they want us to wear the masks. I think it's stupid. I don't think we should have to wear. Why are they telling us what to do? And we leave, and I'm like, Mom, those ladies, they had it right. They were saying everything I believe. And she's like, well, you don't want that type of person to be in your corner, though. That doesn't like support your argument as well as you think. And I was like, well, if that's the way that it is, then the way it is. I guess I'm aligning with like the morbidly obese 7-Eleven people then in this case.
I do. When I see somebody buy ring dings or ding dongs, I'm in their corner. So I am with you on a different aspect when it comes to the morbidly obese. So
Yeah,
that's why I sort of
yeah.
look like Wilford Brimley right now. Had a baby with diabetes. I got the
Yeah,
mustache.
you do have a little Wilford Brimley in you.
Bro, I cut the mustache to be funny, and the beard came in, and I feel like I'm going to do a cosplay for like the Thing this year or something.
Dude,
So-
you absolutely could. That's hilarious. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So Michael Beacon's in the chat. Thanks for being here, Michael. Michael, speaking of Twitter, I feel like I never see Michael on Twitter anymore. Michael, did you leave? But he's around YouTube. He's a good guy. Been around since the very beginning. He has his own book and everything. Yeah. And so let's take a second here and check out these books real fast. Jason, do you want to give us the pitch for Inner Planet #1?
Yeah, great. Thank you. A mysterious off-worlder arrives on the planet Demiad. Now, Demiad is a medieval type planet ruled by evil wizards, and our main character, Felix Mercator, arrives from a nearby planet and says, "I have military secrets I want to give to your government here." And so, issue 1 is about untangling the reasons Felix has for coming to Demiad, for wanting to sell military secrets. He falls in love, gets married while he's there, and there's also a lot of excitement, monsters, chases, action, and it's meant to set up a big epic story about a Cold War between these two planets, Demiad and Mongala.
Cool. That sounds awesome. Michael Beacon says, this looks cool. Yeah, I was thinking this is Michael Beacon-esque, or his is yours-esque, yours is his-esque, but like almost same genre, this kind of sci-fi fantasy. But yeah, that's cool. And I like you said too, well, for one, I did notice, so this is a very simple campaign. It's one tier to get the book, $7, very affordable, a 31-page comic, $7, $5 shipping. So is your strategy there? It's like to get in on the ground level, kind of just get the base, get the initial readers kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my complete lack of name recognition, I try to overcome that with the low price. I think people will really love the comic book if they get it. And so that is my enticement. And keeping it simple is because I'm an idiot and I wanted to keep as few moving parts as possible, as few things to screw up. So just one tier. It's always great when you get a package filled with stickers or toys or something, extra stuff. And who knows if, maybe I could manage something like that as a surprise, but I didn't want to overpromise and be freaking out as I'm messing up whatever, getting the stickers.
Yeah.
Or
that applies a little bit with Dio, because so your first campaign was kind of like that, right? Like very simple, and I don't remember how many backers, but it wasn't too many. Like not too many people knew about it yet.
I think it was like 13 or 14 backers, and I just had like a couple of prints that I was doing with it. I'm with you, bro. It's you don't for me. I don't want to have too many moving parts, and I'm also in the idiot club as well, where it's just I want to get the book out. I'm not there. You know what I mean? And I think it's awesome when you can do all that toy stuff, but I don't think I have the capacity right now.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I agree. The toy stuff, sometimes it's like, it's almost a distraction. It's like self-indulgent, not in a bad way. Like that can be fun, but that's like, I'll notice like I have to force myself to not do too much of that because that's like it's kind of fun, honestly. But then you're like, no, this is not the business. The business is the comics.
Sure. I
Although
mean, even in the
your character's not.
early days of Amazon, you just order some books from Amazon and they'd send you a bookmark for free. And
Right.
it's cool, get something a little extra. It
Yeah,
is nice,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I'm hoping Jeff Bezos starts sending some HGH through Amazon nowadays, dude. The guy looks so different.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
he's
funny,
stuff.
dude.
big transformation. Yeah.
I would pop some HGH,
Dude, I'm thinking about it, bro. Seriously, might as well.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah,
not?
I mean, maybe. You know what they say? They say that big heads play in Hollywood. Have you heard this?
It's true. I have a big head. My brother's like, you should have been in Hollywood. It's true. They have huge heads, bro. It's insane. They look like matchsticks. It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So I was thinking, so I was like, what is with that? I'm like, it's not even like a framing thing necessarily. And if you're talking like comics, like heroic comics, they have small heads. So
Right.
like, so I'm like, it's the opposite of how you would draw it. Why do big heads play? And I'm like, HGH. It's like whatever it is with their body, they're like they got more of that like testosterone HGH style thing that equates to like masculinity, and then that plays. So they could say masculinity plays. They could say artificial drugs to create masculinity plays. They could say if you're lucky enough to have naturally a little bit of what other people have to take crazy drugs for,
Right.
that plays. Yeah.
It's so funny. If you ever meet a famous person in real life, dude, you'll see like, I mean, well, I was gonna say 9 out of 10 times. 10 out of 10 times, their head is huge, dude. And I've got a huge, I'm half Greek, half Irish, so I got the Irish potato head. But luckily, my body's sort of big too. But it's still a big head. But if you look at famous people, if you meet them in person, their heads are ginormous, dude. It's so funny.
Yeah, yeah, they're like top heavy or whatever. That's
100%.
funny. They're like bobbleheads.
Yes.
My friends and I went to one of the first Earth Day celebrations in Central Park, and we were hanging out, and Kim Basinger walked by, and everyone's reaction as she walked by was, "Oh my God, her head is so big."
That's hilarious.
That's
So
funny,
yeah, even women, it's definitely
Yes, I met Parker Posey, and her head was huge, dude. I don't know if you guys know who she is, but she had a huge head, man. Her and Matthew Broderick, great driver, that guy.
Dude, Matthew Broderick must have a giant head. I can just picture it.
He does. He had a big head, but Parker Posey's tiny, and her head was huge. Awesome. They were super nice and super sweet, but yeah, but huge heads.
Yeah, that's funny.
Kim Basinger, that's crazy. I wouldn't, out of, even though I just said they all have big heads, but you think she'd be dainty and a small head, but that's so funny, dude. For the one thing you say when you see her during Earth Day is, "Oh, her head was huge." That's hilarious.
Yeah. And not just
and
you, like everyone else.
Yes.
She was very petite. She had a small frame.
Right.
Yeah, a big, and a lot of hair.
It makes me want to like draw her now or whatever.
You should.
Yeah. Yeah, like you could do like the movie frame and how it looks so normal, but then the second you go to like real life, they're like bobblehead or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's like what the movie's meant to do. That reminds me that speaking of people you bump into in real life, I have a slightly crazier one, but it was at Emerald City Comic Con. I went, but it was like the year or two before COVID, and it was standing room only. It was like, it felt like it was almost, they were turning people away eventually, but it was almost like a fire hazard. It was literally like almost like panic inducing. Like the whole huge convention was shoulder to shoulder. And so I was just like getting like a river of people. The forces have kind of taken you, so I'm kind of waddling. And I sensed something. I sensed this like aura basically. And I looked to my right, and it was Zoe Quinn with like the silver white hair walking by. And she's like evil,
Yeah,
so
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I sensed the evil aura basically. I was like, oh, dude.
That's hilarious, dude. That is so funny. Oh my God.
But it's also funny that like she has an aura, because sometimes you'd be like, no, like Tom Cruise has an aura. I'm like,
Right.
I don't know how to explain it, but Zoe Quinn has one too, I think.
It's like when people met Ted Bundy, some people would be, some people had that vibe, that he was, not knowing who he was, but knowing that there was something up with him. And I would assume it'd be the same with her. I mean, she has not as big of a body count as he does, but great comic creator she was, though. That's I'm glad that she got into the business,
Yeah.
very organically too.
Yep. Like anything else in like video games and everything.
Yeah,
but speaking of that, just a random like aura type stuff. I don't know if this counts as aura, but one time when I lived in Seattle, I walked into a Fred Meyer and there was this old guy, and he was selling subscriptions of Seattle Times,
Mhm.
and he looked at me, and somehow we made eye contact, and he goes like this. And I blacked out for like 4 minutes, and when I came to, I had subscribed to the Seattle Times, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What the hell did that guy do? Like that was black magic. What the
That's
hell?
awesome.
Like serious, like magnetism or whatever." And I was
That's-
like, he
That's that
was
old
like,
school sales.
yeah. He was like a 1950s manly man salesman type guy, old dude. I was trying to play it back in my head. I'm like, part of it was he was like super relaxed. He was not like, he wasn't like, oh, let me get you, come here, like needy. You know, he was the opposite of needy. However he did it, and I was like,
He
what the
lulled
hell
you
did
in.
you just do? Yeah,
That's awesome, dude. That's so funny. Well, yeah,
I
I mean, you got
remember.
to figure that old school type of person, you used to have to go to door to sell stuff and sold stuff. You know what I mean? Nowadays, you go to anybody's door, you're like, get the hell out of here. And
Yeah.
to have that type of salesmanship, dude, that's hilarious. I would ask for the footage back from the store. I feel like the ring. It's
Yeah.
like, probably
Oh
all
yeah,
fucked.
yeah. Like we have to study this man. Like, and I'd be a little embarrassed that maybe it's me coping, like giving him extra credit that I just fell for it or whatever. But on the flip side, I had some salesmen come to my house here, and they were selling like windows and roofing, and I let them give me their spiel, which I eventually regretted because it took like a little over an hour even.
Always does, yeah.
Yeah, and then I kind of wanted to tell him to get out of there, and they were like, "Sure, let me just call my boss real fast, and I have to report back, you know, because blah blah blah." So then he calls his boss, and he's like, "Yeah, he says, you know, he's working comics he can't quite afford, blah blah blah." But I told him, blah blah blah. Oh, so you say okay? But and he hangs up, and he's like, "Tell you what, my boss, he doesn't normally do this, but he's willing to go, blah 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 blah." And I was like, "Did you just have a fake phone conversation with your boss?" Like, I'm pretty sure you did. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
you
sure.
did.
And then I was like, man, let me talk to him. I wanted to be like that. And the guy'd be like, oh, I can't let you talk to him. Like, you know, it's policy. I don't know.
That's so funny. Dude, we had
Yeah.
this these people come to our door. It was like for a church or whatever. And Jewel was sitting on the couch and she couldn't see what's going on. And I used to have a lot of people come to our door, and I used to hate it. I used to have a sign. I'll have to post it one day. It said, you know, I got a long guy. I got enough friends. Kindly kick rocks. Leave me the F alone. People used to knock on my door and try to sell me shit all the time. But you know, Jewel didn't believe it. And when she moved in, she finally started seeing this shit happen. And one time these church people came, and she's like, goes on. I go, listen, I don't want it. She's like, okay, well, give me your phone number and I'll take you off the list. And I looked at Jewel. She's like, did she just say what she thought, like what I thought she said? I was like, just beat it, dude. You know what I mean? But like, I thought it was hilarious. Give me your phone number so I can take you off the list. Okay, so you can call me all the time too. Jesus.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. They can get kind of weird with it for
For sure.
sure. Zayd Comics, do I have an aura though? I don't know. I was gonna say I'd have to meet you, but I have met you. So then I would say not on the level of Zoquin, unfortunately. But
Speaking
we
of
can keep
big,
working on it.
he's bigger than I thought he'd be when I used to see him on the YouTube. So big head, big body though too. The guy was taller than I thought he would be.
Yeah, maybe you could work. Just take a little HGH, Zayd, and talk to me in the morning. See how it goes. But I wonder if HGH. I wonder if it is like not that hard to procure. Like
You can
that.
if you can go to the doctor and get it. I mean, they give it out to people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you're hanging out in the right places at the gym or whatever.
That too, yeah. Just ask for some gear. Wink,
Yeah.
wink.
yeah. Some of that, and then ivermectin. They sell that over the counter in Mexico, and I was in Mexico only once, but my buddy's like, "Bring back some ivermectin for me," and I forgot, and I was like, I felt pretty bad because he really wanted me to do that, and I
funny
was
you
like,
say
"Damn,
that.
I want some ivermectin too."
There's a picture I just saw online of a Mexican pharmacy that has, so it starts with Viagra and all that other stuff, but it has HGH on there as well, and it's over the counter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, I just need to go to Mexico, buy a bunch of HGH and ivermectin, just start popping pills.
I love
I'll
that
be
you're
like,
putting those two things together, which just cracks me up.
yeah, I hope they don't
HGH.
cancel.
I want to see
I
what
hope
it
they
does.
don't, yeah, I hope they don't cancel each other out. I've heard legends of ivermectin. Like people were like, because it has like its own lore now, just even because of COVID and
Right.
whatever. But people were saying like, I forget exact. People were like, I've taken 2 pills and it's changed my entire life for the rest of my life. They're like, I was sleepy all the time. Then I take 2 ivermectin and I felt good, like $1 million for the rest of my life after that. Because apparently it's anti-parasitic or whatever. So
Totally.
it's like,
That's what it started out as, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
everybody's got something. I heard
I think if you go
another.
straight HGH, you might just be having that same feeling though too, brother. So from
Yeah,
what I hear of people that are on HGH, they love it. I mean, everything is You know, I mean, you got to work out though. I mean, you know, you got to do something. Otherwise, it's, you know, probably not going to be beneficiary or beneficial rather. But I mean, you're going to want to. Apparently, it's going to give you that 18-year-old energy. You know, I remember being 16, 17, 18 and being at the gym all the time. So that'd be good to have. I mean, I started running again, but I'm doing that slow Wilford Brimley run, so it's not the same like it used to be.
Yeah.
Is HGH a steroid or is it something different?
Yeah, it's steroid, human growth hormone, and there's a bunch of different ones. I mean, that you can take. There's ones that they have on that you can use. Comes like on a deodorant thing. You just roll it on, and it just goes in through your bloodstream, so you don't have to shoot yourself up and all this other stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy stuff.
Yeah, I take allergy medicine, which I guess is a steroid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Nice, man. Hook us up.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with being like the bionic man, in theory, at least. Yeah. Speaking of mixing them, like, so what would they call that is like controlling your variables. If you're like, well, I got to take HGH and see what it does. Then I got to take ivermectin and see what it does. Then maybe you can take them both and see what it does or whatever. But I wrote a short story once where I was like, it kind of made me laugh because it's like the whole point that the guy was saying. He's like, he said isolating your variables, the scientific method of isolating your variables is overrated. And here's why. And I was like, and I was trying to like argue for that case. And I was like, I mean, it's like, you could kind of make that case a little bit. Like it takes so much longer to like isolate your variables. It's like, fuck it, just take them all. Who cares?
Like, see what happens, dude. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So that's what I'm going to live my life by from now on. Like, I'm not isolating any variables anymore.
That's awesome.
I saw on Twitter there was an anecdote too about a kid. This one's a little more sad, I guess, but it was in Australia at a party. High school kid. His friends dared him to eat a slug, and he ate it. But then he got a brain parasite from the slug, and he went into like a 3-year coma.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and then he came out of it, and then like 5 years later he died. But he was like out.
Yeah, he was never the same.
I thought he came out of it, could play piano great, but I guess it's definitely more of a bummer story.
No, see, that'd be a happy ending. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be.
I'd eat a slug if it would make me. That's like almost a comic idea. But yeah, dude, when I was a kid, high school, we got drunk one night and we were daring each other to drink spiders, and we were finding spiders around the house and dropping them into shot glasses and chugging them. And it gave me a stomach ache, but I was fine. But it was gross and I regret it. And I'm like, what were we doing? We were so dumb. Kids are so stupid. Yeah, at least we didn't eat slugs. Like,
seriously. Oh man.
I studied anthropology in college, and I was lucky enough to get to go do field work in Africa. And there's all kinds of hideous stories about bugs and things in Africa. But when I was getting my shots for dengue fever and things like that at the school pharmacy, I ran into another anthropology student, and I'm like, oh yeah, guess what? I'm going to Africa. And she's like, oh, I just got back from South America. I'm getting pills for my parasitic blockage I got while I was there. I didn't get any more details about what a parasitic blockage is, but it sounds pretty horrible.
It does sound horrible. Because what happens? Levee breaks. You know what I mean? I'm thinking like, what's
Well, and that's like, like cats and dogs, they say they got worms. Like, it's like, you have another thing living in your body.
Yeah.
Eating your food before you can eat it is like part of it. And that's like, so you get malnourished because you just got something down there like, it's mine. Not for you, it's for me. And then what do you even do? Oh, yeah. But supposedly that's the kind of stuff ivermectin can get rid of.
Right.
And so Dio, let's talk a little bit about Tome of Reckoning 3.
Sure.
Which is fun because it's already up to number 3. I remember some of your pitches like standouts is like it'll eventually be, is it 15 issues?
15. Yep. Yeah.
Which is cool. I love hearing that. It's like a big epic story. We're on 3, which is fun because we're like pretty deep into it. Then like people can jump in. This is when I would recommend if like you're just getting here and haven't seen Tomb of Reckoning before, you can buy all 3 and you can jump pretty deep into the story, which is fun.
Totally. Yeah, so it's just a continuation of what's been going on. It's a pre-apocalyptic monster story set in a world where, like I said, the apocalypse is about to happen. But we're getting into introducing some newer characters, a new set of characters in issue 3. So expanding the world a little bit more, and just stuff starting to really truck along right now narratively. But it's just if you like stuff like The Stand, what was that one book? Talisman, another one, probably nobody's read it, but the Talisman,
I've
stuff
read
like
that.
yeah, Talisman's great, man. Yeah.
Big Peter Straub fan.
Yeah, same here, man. So yeah, it's it's along those lines of just it's my love letter to all the horror flicks that I grew up with as a kid. A lot of the Hammer stuff and the stuff later on in the 80s as well. And some of the people that have read it, like Crenshaw, got that vibe from it, which I was stoked to see without me really having to spoon feed anybody, what it's about. And I've been hearing good things about the first 2 issues, so hopefully that'll carry on into the third with a whole new set of characters being introduced and the stakes being raised. And so I have a digital edition as well, where you get 104 pages for $15, which for digital it's a little bit high, I guess, but it's crowdfunding. I'm not using it as a storefront. I'm trying to amass some money to actually get a decent print run of these books. So, but still trying to keep it at a decent price.
Yeah. Well, and that was something so your issue 2, it was kind of a fun little, speaking of narratives, a fun story because it did do exponentially better than issue 1. And then it was a little bit of even that, was that you're we're all learning as we go, and you're damn, printing and fulfilling, it's expensive. So
It is.
even having a pretty successful book, it's especially today because there's inflation on paper and everything and ink
100%.
or whatever. So yeah, it's it's interesting. I wonder how things will go if I'm just kind of waiting for the next golden age and if it will happen, because I felt the last golden age was 2020, 2021, even a little bit 2022. So that kind of zone, crowdfunding was doing really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of been going down just with the economy, basically. So
Totally.
I do feel like it can come back, and we'll all be ready when it does.
Well, I was lucky enough, Jolly, who's just one of those dudes, man, who not only has just been a good new friend, but just somebody who's really into helping out people who are crowdfunding, because he's about to have his stuff come out as well. He's got his newsletter. But he hooked me up with a printing company that I think is going to be really beneficial this time around. So I wish I had those guys last time, because I could have made this run go a little further. But with this one, even with whatever we get, 600 or more, I think I can make it stretch a lot further with this new printing company that he hooked me up with. So I'm stoked.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, I've seen that too. I think it's there are ones you can go to that'll print in China, and it's a little bit pros and cons, but absolutely it's still affordable. And it's the cons being it's a little bit longer, and there's some international shipping type stuff, but I think people play that up a little more than it as a negative than it needs to be. They'll kind of scare you there'll be a blocking of the canal because of war, and then your shit'll be, then it gets lost, and then
Right.
which I mean that there was something that happened with PTP with his toys.
Yeah, but he said he lost some. Yeah, from what I remember, but I think that was more that they just lost that shit, which is going to happen too, because it's human error. You know what I mean? Until we got the AI and the robots running everything, which probably won't be smooth either. You're going to have human error. But to your point, I looked at the cost of printing and international shipping, and it was still miles cheaper than what I was paying, in the States, man, which is nuts. And it's almost unbelievable. But there's people that are using that printing company already, who are doing successful books. So it's why not give it a shot? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the time,
you know what?
through it.
I should almost do that. Yeah, because I've been doing kind of just identical to you. I've been using Mixum.
Me too.
And,
Yeah.
and they're fine, but it is the profit margins go down. And the thing I like about them is the fast. They'll get you books in 2 weeks or whatever.
Totally.
But,
And they're cheapest.
Yeah,
In
but
States.
China, I mean, it'll get them in maybe 4 to 6 weeks, maybe, which it is
Right.
that's twice as long.
Right.
But that's not crazy. And
No.
then you can get it gets a lot more what you would imagine in a good case scenario of what it would cost. It's a more wholesale,
100%.
yeah, prices.
Yeah,
like that.
because I'm treating crowdfunding as where I'm going to give you some extra pages and whatnot and stuff that you won't get because I'm going to make a small print, of just the crowdfunding crew. You know what I mean? Whoever gets it from the crowdfunder will get a book that has artwork that's not going to be on the other ones that I order. Because I'd like to sell these, not online or not as a crowdfunder, and sell them for cheaper, because I want to get them in people's hands. So if I can make it cost worthy for you to get it through my crowdfunder as a quote unquote first print, special edition that has extra artwork in it, and then make the prints of the other ones that I'd like to sell secondary as a second print, and therefore cheaper, I'd love to, go to conventions and be able to get these things out and not have to sell, a 36-page floppy for, $10 or whatever, whatever it is. You know what I mean? I understand with crowdfunding, that's the way it should be. And I understand also with, the cost of printing, you have to sell it for what you pay print wise. But finding this printer can make it, where it's still profitable for me to sell it for $4, $5, and as a second print, and still make sure whoever's getting the crowdfunder gets exclusive stuff that you wouldn't be able to get for your $10 purchase, you know what I mean, or $15 purchase, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yep. And Dale, thanks for posting links in the chat. Everyone, definitely
Awesome.
take a
Thanks,
look
Dale.
at these. Anyone watching, if you're watching this later too, we got 10 people watching right now, but yeah, like check out these books. And that reminds me, because that's a little segue back to Interplanet. So this is number 1. And speaking of like raising money for crowdfunding, I think it is a fun strategy to do what you're doing, Jason. But then, yeah, I think one of the things crowdfunding is good to do is like you have the one option for people who want to contribute more, because sometimes I don't know what it could be like if it's like original art or whatever. Then that is there, so then that can help the campaign get these like kind of get the average backer up. It gives it the boost.
Mm-hmm.
But so for 2 and 3, which is kind of like, I mean, Dio started with 1, just like you're doing, and yeah, this is fun. You'll see like if the low price point brings in some readers.
Mm-hmm.
But then for book 2 or 3, like at some point, definitely have like an option for like $100 or something, and you get like whatever, like a hardcover or some original art or something. Cause
For sure.
there
I
are
mean, I think
backers out there.
there's all kinds of fun things you can do. I mean, I think some of these images would look really cool on a t-shirt, some posters, stuff like that.
Sure.
I'd love to offer things like that.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's cool. Yeah. So Interplanet number 1, and just $7, $5 shipping. Tomb of Reckoning number 3, and the art is looking better and better. That's part of the narrative a little bit with you too, Dio, right? Because for 1, just the more you draw, the better you get. It kind of makes sense, and it's not like it's jarring, I guess, because I even like it if it's like noticeable. I enjoy that.
It's almost like the old Ninja Turtles books when they started
Yeah.
out, and then you see it get just better and better.
Yeah, but didn't you say like part of it is like you finally bought glasses or something?
Yes, well, that's exactly, dude. It's so funny because like I don't know if I can share a screen, but yeah, I bought glasses, dude, and now I can see, because I was doing so for this issue, the first one you're looking at right here, no glasses, so a lot of it was blurry, dude, to me. So I'm actually pretty impressed with how it looked. And then issue 2, same thing. Issue 3, I got glasses, but they weren't the best prescription. And then issue 4, like halfway through, you'll see it looks like it goes from how we went from like the tube TVs to HD. It's just like off the charts, where it's just so much clearer and I can see better. And yeah, it's awesome, dude. It's like back in the day when I was a kid drawing, I can do like small details and stuff and be able to see the picture as a whole. But yeah, glasses, man. What a dumb, I'm such an idiot. I should have glasses a long time ago.
Yeah. I'm lucky that I did it when I was a kid, but it was funny. I used to play way back in the day, not even in high school, but I played baseball, and I was a catcher, and they'd pitch the ball and I'd be like, huh. Like I was always like barely catching it because I couldn't see it. And finally I got glasses, and then I was like, oh, it's like you can actually track the ball.
How funny is that, dude? Because like, you don't, because I'm sure your vision wasn't super bad, so you just thought, maybe I'm not into it anymore. I don't know what the hell it is. And then it's just like your vision slowly was going where it's like, it was normal, and it's just a whole new world, man. It's insane.
Yep. Yeah. And my mom is like me, like legally blind basically. And then my dad had great vision. Pretty much, he needs reading glasses now, but he's always had good eyesight. And I think my brother got my dad's eyesight, and I got my mom's.
That's so funny.
But yeah, EC says love seeing the artistic evolution. I agree. And another thing we talked about this last time, Dio, but I always appreciate good drawing of a pretty woman, and you can do that too, which
Thanks,
is a
man. I
good skill.
appreciate that.
That's a little something that's funny because it's a little separate from drawing skill.
Right.
And yeah, like you can be a great drawer, but it's like, yeah, there are people who aren't even the greatest artists, but they can draw beautiful women, and that's like a nice little feather in their cap. And vice versa, there are people who draw. Sometimes they'll draw almost like too realistic. That's like happening in video games now. I've been seeing the memes; they make me laugh, but they're like, as graphics have gotten better and better, women have gotten uglier and uglier, and it's not even like because you see more. It's more just because of woke ideology. But
100%. I saw that meme today where it's like 4 different screens, and then the last, it's like, oh, I can't wait till it's like next gen graphics like 5 times, and then it gets to the
Yeah.
they look at each other like, oh shit.
Yeah. And did you guys see too? Let's talk about this for a second. Like,
Sure.
so there was the other game, the South Korea game. Chat, let me know if you can think of it too. Benjamin
Stellar
Soto, what's up,
Blade?
man? Yeah, Stellar Blade. Yeah,
I got it downloaded. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, wait. So is it like early release or the demo right now?
it's the demo, and it's a beautiful looking game. Like not even just like the chick, but like it's a pretty good looking game, man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I had a little theory watching that. I was like, well, there's a couple things going on. Like, so one is I was kind of thinking like, man, yeah, if you commit to beauty, that's going to bleed into other aspects. So like that game was probably going to be a really good game because it just they really made the commitment to like they're actually going for it kind of. And then the other thing that's like a little bit weird is like cuz I swear when I was a kid like none of the sexuality crossed my mind. And if you look at Stellar Blade, there is some sexuality and it's like obvious, but it's not. And then I guess this is what the negative people like will almost say like it's porn. And I'm like, well, I feel like you guys are like watching too much porn or something like to make the association.
Or I've never seen porn because the game, to be honest with you, dude, like, so yeah, like there's like the jiggle physics or whatever, and you can tell it's gone a little further. But the reason why is because, you know, growing up, I used to have to deal with the religious right, you know, playing in punk rock bands and stuff. People would like, you know, protest it and all this stuff. Now I'm dealing with the religious left, and it's like the same shit. And it's just funny because it's just the same thing that happened in the 80s with horror stuff. You know, you want to, you know, people put boobs and stuff. You go to an extreme. But watching this game, like I, you know, I booted it up. It looks, if this came out 10 years ago, you wouldn't have said anything. You know, if it was the same type of graphics. It's just like how we had like Cammy in Street Fighter. It's no different. Nobody bitched about that. You know what I mean? It's just we have this really weird ideological religious far left that's that just looks at beauty as it's, you know, as it's disgusting, and it's really weird, man. It's like because nobody would have blinked an eye or batted an eye at this had it come out 10 years ago, dude. It's not it's nothing crazy. Like there's no, you know, I'm not, you know, nobody, unless, you know, you're not looking up certain parts. It's not like I'm doing a mammogram on anybody or a pap smear. It's just, it's a normal video game with a chick who has curves, and it's weird, dude. My girl loves to draw. She draws chicks with, you know, curves and big boobs and all that other stuff, and all these other people are just weird. The weird part is it's this crew of people who are like sexual freedom, sex work is this and that, and then they freak out about a video game, dude, like ones and zeros. So they're a bunch of clowns, dude. It's no different than the people protesting shows that I played back in the day. So yeah, it's weird.
Or what were you gonna say, Jason?
You have these moral panics, like from decade to decade, coming from different directions, and even though like they're politically different, you know, but there's a lot of similarities with these people who are, you know, upset about, you know, media, whatever is being expressed. They come from completely different directions politically or whatever, but it's basically the same. It
is. Yeah, it's weird, man. It's really weird. Like, you know, the fight against sexuality and all this stuff, you know, in the 80s, you know, it's like I said, there's a pendulum that's swinging, and I'm pretty much underneath the middle of it and just watching this dumbass ball go far to left to far right, back and forth again. I just want some normalcy, man. I wish some of the velocity would die off that thing, and we could have just, you know, a good 5 or 10 years, which we did, I think, in like the 2000s to 2010. If you look back, like I'm not one of these guys that's an older dude that's like, oh, my youth. Like I really live in the moment. You know, I don't miss anything. I don't miss my hair. I don't miss jack shit. But looking back in the early 2000s, 2000 to 2010, was not a bad decade. Like, it wasn't that there was anything crazy coming out that, like, you know, you're going to look back upon and be like, oh, this was a great time for this or that. It was just a great time for people not really freaking out about shit and making up stuff. And, you know, hopefully we'll come out on the other end of it sometime soon, because it's weird.
Yeah.
Dude. It's weird.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, because even in the 90s, you had some of the Puritan stuff from the right, and the 2000s were almost the middle ground, where it was less from the right, less from the left. And in some ways, it was, you could almost, I was thinking even comedy wise, like the best comedy was right before woke stuff happened. And it was like 30 Rock and The Office and stuff. And they would do some ridiculous, like borderline, you know, like not PC stuff that was super hilarious. But then like literally like 1 year later, and then it's the same. It's weird because it's like Tina Fey. Like, I'm like, you were just an awesome comedian for like 10 years, but now you're more of the woke side. So people
totally, yeah. Mean Girls was awesome. Well, it's like you were talking about The Office. Like, there's a great episode of The Office with that. Is it Black Peter? I can't think what the character's name is, but it's like the you know, European German Christmas tradition where there's like a character who's in blackface, right? Which obviously we all know that's not good. They've taken it off of Netflix, but the funny part is the character shows up in blackface to play this character, and he starts walking up the office, and he's like, nope, and gets in his car and leaves. The funny part is not that he's in blackface. It's that you realize it's not good. Do you know what I mean? The funny part is his realization that it's not a good thing to do, and he steps back in his car. But they've taken it off of Netflix because these people are weird, puritanical weirdos, dude, who just don't understand. The joke is not the racist part. The joke is that it's not good to be that racist thing. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just, it's infuriating, dude. It's insane.
I mean, a really funny comedian, I think back in the, you know, a few decades ago, they would get a big sitcom deal, a big movie deal. Yep. Now, I mean, there are still really funny comedians out there, but now they do podcasts.
Yeah.
And I think it mirrors somewhat, you know, what we're talking about here with the comic book industry.
100%.
You just do it yourself. With the technology is there. You can, if the gatekeepers won't let you into the industry, you just make your own comic book podcast, what have you.
It's true.
Yeah, and that reminds me of what Dio was saying. Even like if we're declaring victory too soon, it's like Bush on the airline carrier or whatever, and it's like it feels like that. Like when you have Netflix takes like sneakily taking off episodes of The Office, you can't declare victory when, you know, it hasn't happened yet. If that's still like a weird case where all these like weird little shadow things
100%
kind of happening. But yeah, with Stellar Blade it too, it's like it's almost, there's like an association between beauty and sexuality, and they want them to be like identical, I guess. So if you show any beauty, then they're like, oh, it's sexual. And I don't even know, like, for one, there's like, I'm trying to like, what was it like in the 80s when, you know, it was like cool and you had the religious right was being squares and everything. They would have a lot of sexuality and they would be very comfortable with it. There would be a lot of beauty. But I don't know. So it's like, it is like the level of how much of an association there is, and then the comfortability with some sexuality without it having to be like super weird kind of. It feels like there's like a sweet spot where that's like, and you can almost look at the eras. You're like, all right, where was it good? Like it wasn't there in the 50s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It was pretty good. Even 2000s. But now it's like, yeah, it's gotten really weird. But yeah,
it's insane.
And just the commitment to beauty is interesting though. Like I feel like that is something people can start bringing back right now, just in the independent sphere. Right. And it's simpler than you think. And it goes as simple as, well, even with, it's funny with animation, they have this thing called the principles of animation, which whatever, like Disney invented it back in the day. And one of them is appeal, and appeal is funny. It's like, it's like so simple, but you're like, oh yeah, appeal. Like, oh yeah, it should be nice to look at. And it's not even what's cool about that is like, appeal is like not even like beauty per se. Like Goofy has appeal, you know, Goofy's like fun to look at. And, but like, yeah, like Jasmine and Aladdin, they look like and there's infinite designs you can do. But then you can see when like it's some of this new woke stuff. You're like, oh my god, they totally don't have appeal. They lost it. Like it's
Mhm.
like hard to look at. It makes you want to like wince almost if you look at some of these faces. You're like, why do they look like that?
I
What's
think that
wrong with
goes
your
for
face?
public art too. I mean, every time you see a new statue or a building, they're not appealing most times.
Yeah.
For
Yep.
sure.
Yeah, and Simply Green says aesthetic beauty in general. That's what I feel. I feel like there is an association between beauty, all types of beauty. So that's why I'm like Stellar Blade. My little theory is like they start with just feminine beauty, and of course it triggers like the Puritans or whatever. But that's going to trickle down to other forms of beauty within that game, and I'm rooting for that game to be really good because I that would kind of prove my theory a little
Do you
bit.
have a PlayStation 5 or?
No, but all I do these days, I do have a PS3, but it's not plugged in right now.
I love my
But
PS3. It broke. Yeah, I was bummed.
yeah, actually, I do love it too because the thing I have the most on it is like old downloaded games. Like I got
Nice.
Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4, like
Yeah.
those type
Yeah,
games.
dude, I put my own hard drive in mine back in the day, and I had downloaded games. And when it broke, I never got another system. And then PS5, like, I just got one not that long ago, just because I was like, oh shit, I didn't have a gaming PC anymore, and I wanted to play some games. And yeah, those old games are the best, dude. I've downloaded some of those on this thing from the old classic era. So yeah, it's awesome
Yeah, something that's funny that's happening is like I feel like even like the younger generation, they're like rediscovering old video games.
for sure.
And it reminds me of like maybe like it might have been for us with movies. Is like there's a point where you realize like, wait a minute, I was born after movies were invented. So there were movies before I was born. I need to check these out too. Or
Exactly.
like the other thing that happens when you're a kid is you just watch a bunch of old movies and you have no idea, but they're like 100 years old and you don't even
Right.
know. That happened with Disney. You're like watching like Sleeping Beauty or something, and
Yeah.
I thought that was a '90s movie for like the
Especially
longest
those.
time.
Yeah, 'cause you can't tell. Yeah, because it still looks so good. It's in color. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, they're like timeless.
for sure.
Cool. Well, we're about to hit an hour. We got 10 people watching. I want to thank everyone. Comics Mate, what's up, Dean? Um, Nintendo Switch. Yeah, it is pretty good. You know what's fun about Nintendo Switch is the graphics are really nice. Like it has its own house aesthetic kind of. It's like a
Yeah.
little bit it's not as like powerful as PS5, but in some ways that makes it like they have the appeal. Like you can just picture like
You
Mario Kart or whatever. Like looks
what
really
you just said,
nice.
Zelda, like it doesn't have the graphical power. Which, to be honest with you, I know I'm going to disagree with you, Comics Mate. When stuff has to, like, load up after 5 minutes, it is 2024. It needs to speed that shit up. But the in-house design is just like Nintendo is just like Disney when it comes to that. Zelda looks great. It's not, it's not a new, super powerful game, but it looks amazing. Pikmin, something stupid like that, looks great because they're putting effort into their designs. Whereas like the people that are making this new shit, like Wish, which I heard was AI created for the most part. I don't know if you saw that whole debacle about that Disney movie. Just like you said, no appeal, dude. But yeah, Nintendo's got some good looking stuff.
Yeah.
But
Y- yeah, dude, Wish is weird too. But yeah, so we'll take a quick look at these campaigns, just let everyone know. So it's Interplanet #1 from Jason, and this is a very simple one, which is nice. And only 7 backers so far, so if possible, let's get a normal nudge on this. It's only $12 with shipping to get the
awesome.
book. And it's an issue 1, and it's kind of fun. It's the first book that's getting launched. So this is get in on the ground floor type thing. Indie comics. Obviously, the art looks amazing. This is like the kind of sci-fi fantasy, which is a fun mix. And there's a
Thank you.
handful of those. Like I wonder. I haven't read Brandon Sanderson, but it reminds me of what that might be like. Have you guys read Brandon Sanderson?
I haven't.
No.
He's one too who he crowdfunds, and he's a author.
Yeah.
But he has some how to write. He teaches at like BYU. I think he's Mormon maybe, but he teaches at BYU, and I watch his lectures because they're up online and they're great. But his
Okay.
books, they're like they sell a lot, but he crowdfunded. I swear his crowdfund raised like I don't know if it was like 20 million or so. It was something insane like
That's
that.
awesome. You're doing something
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So he's cool, but yeah, he does like this kind of story too. So this is a fun genre. Like people love this. It's a good idea to jump into this world and everyone take a look. The art looks great. And then Dio, no, it's exciting because it's #3. And I realized the trade of 1 and 2 plus physical of 3 for $28. That's a good deal. Like, yeah, that's great. A great deal.
Thanks,
So, yeah, and they got the PDFs. So this one, a lot of nice options. I guess we're just going over this now, but there is some cover art and some you can get a drawing. Yeah, so that's cool. This is I kind of recommend this stuff if you can get it. Only 2 out of 25 so far, so that's a good one to grab. And yeah, it's fun that it's just already 3 in, and it'll continue to grow and be a cool story for people to check out.
Thanks, man.
Looks great.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, yours looks great too, dude. I love the artwork. I keep on seeing the one with them flying on the eagle-like creatures, and just beautifully put together. So great world you've built, man. I'm stoked to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Alan really expanded on my descriptions. It was supposed to be like a chase scene. He made it look like a full-out battle. It looks gorgeous.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Collaborative spirit of comics, man. It's great.
My first experience with it, I really loved it. It was great.
Oh,
a
that's
good
super
growing
cool.
experience.
I'm glad nobody killed it for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome, dude. You're lucky. That's super cool.
Cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great.
Yep. All right. Well, hang out for just a second, guys. We'll say hi behind the scenes, and I'm going to end the stream.
Sure.
Thanks everyone for being here, for the chat, hanging out. Dean, Simply Green, Paulus Arts, what's up, man? Foul Crenshaw, what's up, dog? Hail the lore. Thanks everyone, and we'll get out of here.